Hello, livers and bratwursts. How are you? My name is Elliot. And I think that you're hearing me. And if you're not hearing me, then you're just going to watch my mouth wag. If this is your first time joining me, then I'm really surprised you're here. In a good way. Like a pleasant surprise. Welcome. I'm glad to be sharing space with you. And if you're returning, then get ready for more of the same, which is always a little bit different, but always me. Who am I? I'm still figuring that out. And really, I think that's the only answer. At the risk of sounding general and not specific, but really that's where all conversations must start. And that's maybe kind of what I want to rant a little bit about. You can't be told anything. And when I say that, I really mean it in the most absurd, extreme, literal, and all the way. And the contrary belief that you can be told anything and that you can equate that with knowing is a lie. And it actually breaks your mind. What do you mean? It's all really simple in my mind, but my mind would make most people go crazy. I know, because I had to go there to be here. Hi, my name is Elliot, and I'm a baboon. It's like, in my brain, I have, let's look at the circle of our brain. This is what I know. My name's Elliot, about Mr. Elliot. And, he's a human or whatever, but he just said I'm a baboon. So now, my name is Elliot. I'm a baboon. Now, those things don't make sense in the context of connecting it with everything else. You're like, well, he doesn't look like a baboon. He doesn't look like a baboon. He doesn't sound like a baboon. So he can't be a baboon, despite that's what he's saying. Except when you have a paradigm, like an environmental manner of seeing and experiencing your realm of being, your world, where just because someone says something makes it true enough without enough supporting scaffolds of understanding, then you basically what's a scaffold? It's a thing that holds up, and it's a whole thing that's scaffolding that kind of holds things together, yoking things together. And when I don't understand how the answers on my science test are right, but if I memorize that shit, I'll get him right on the test. Then what I'm hardwiring in the manner with which my brain, my nervous system is going to explore and experience its environment and come into understanding and understanding is basically that knowing. Let me say this a different way. When you believe something that you're told and you don't understand it, and then you make choices, as in you build the context of your environment, your world, with those things that you're told, but you don't understand, then when you come into conflict with your environment by virtue of what you don't understand, you are helpless because It's a learned helplessness. Because you like it's almost like you don't believe, or you don't understand, you don't, like you're being trained to to seek outside of your own connecting the dots. Okay, I'm gonna come back at this from a different way, because it sucks talking to a screen, but this is the only manner with which for now I can feel like I'm talking to you. If you want to fuck with the natural order and relationship with like being and non-being, or order and chaos, like love, then fuck with the family. Obviously, right? Look at the world. So fuck with the family. How do you fuck with the family? Fuck with the parents. Okay. How do you fuck with the parents? Besides all the separation and whatnot, fuck with what they think they should be doing. And they've done this, they've brainwashed, as in like scrubbed clean and like emptied the brains of everything so that they could put whatever they want in it. Like, what do your parents say something, you do what you're told. You listen to your parents. Didn't your parents tell you? Isn't that something your parents? That's all a lie. Parents, authorities, mentors, masters, like meisters, teachers. No one is being told something in a truer world is like being cussed to. It's like being cursed at. And not for fun. Because, and what I mean is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a child that asks why, and everything wrong with disregarding that why as meaningless. Parenting is in cultivating the whys of your children and encouraging the building of their own bridges of all sorts of colors, so that they become the creators of their world, to challenge what they're told. Because when you are told something and you believe it, you don't understand it, then it sits all by itself in the realm of your creation, and you don't know how to use it because you don't know how it got there. So you can be lied to about how it got there. And because you don't believe that you are the one that put that thought in your own mind and accepted it, anything that anybody else says that you deign to be a modifier of your thinking, i.e. the news, the government, your teachers, your culture, the age that you brought up in, all that bullshit. You're just like a self-made automaton. No one can tell you anything. You can't know physics. Like, look, like I'm voracious in my ingestion of interesting information, and I prioritize my interests around alleviation of needless suffering of us all. And it's led me, I really believe in down every crook and cranny there is. And so I've seen hundreds of hours, if not thousands. Let's don't want to sound dramatic, rather accurate. Hundreds and hundreds of hours of math videos, physics videos, chemistry videos, just like whatever we call the sciences and the maths and the such. Little reference, like I did horrible at these things in school. I mean, I aced them when I did them, and I just didn't do them most of the time. And looking back, it makes sense because I asked why, and it didn't make sense, and I couldn't build things with the bullshit that they gave us. Because you know what? It's all a lot of lies, and all it takes is looking at an MIT quantum physics anything, or astrophysics, or math anything. And first of all, you look at those people; they're regurgitating the shit that's been like wrote in their minds. There's so little understanding, so little simplexity, no elegance, just describing and not explaining. And looking for answers outside of themselves to such a degree and such an extent that even when they don't think that they're looking outside of themselves, because they're smart, they're really intelligent, they've got all these degrees and shit, they have no recognition by which they look outside themselves to reference themselves and their identity and the identity of beingness and the universe and the world and all of isnessness, to know that they're an automaton, that they're being, kind of controlled and whatever. Okay, I guess what I want to say is that might be something new, or at least put in such a manner with which can be more easily understood. And this is the reason that I'm making this video, is if no one can be told anything, don't expect to tell anybody anything. Don't try. You can't tell anybody anything and expect them to know it just because you told them. That is fruitless. And truly just in conflict with, it's like in direct conflict with the actual way that information and love is transmitted. Telling is not a thing. It's a fiction. Telling and fiction are closer to the same thing than telling and knowing. The only manner with which one can know anything is to deny it and then go through every cycle sphere of one's own understanding to see if their denial of that thing can be persistent. And then when you try your hardest, not without emotion, so like, this can't be true. No, it's just like, that's okay. You think that's true? Let's see if I can disprove that with all that I know. And all that I know is only what I know through this same method of being like, I can't disprove it yet. Only then does the truth reveal itself. Hi, Peggy. Only then does any truth really reveal half of itself. Just because someone told you something, all that can do is be recognized as yourself acquiring information that you've um, set your reticular activation system to notice because you're questioning. And then try to disprove it. Not because you want to, but that's just how you know anything. By basically, because how do you prove something that really? How do you prove something that is new? It's unknown. How do you prove something that exists outside of the measuring tools of the known? And it's easy to prove something if you only use one aspect of proof. It's like, I exist as like a solid form. I'm not made of light. What is light? Like, look at me, I'm solid. You can't push through this. I was like, yeah, okay, that's true. You've proved that. But there's like lots of contrary proof too. But if you just like exclude that, fine. Anyways, it's silly. And where that leads, and this is really kind of, if the one thing that I kind of wanted to like share with this post is, one, nobody can be told anything, so don't tell anybody anything. All you can do is ask questions, answer questions, and have fun with conversation. If someone says they know something and they have no experience of it, they don't know it. They've heard of it. And if they think that they know it and they try and use it and they don't know it, they're dangerous. Either mostly like a child with a weapon, but in like that kind of danger, which is super dangerous. It's like, here's this big shiny red button. It like will blow yourself up. Here, go play with it. Go, it flashes. And the second thing is, I think that most people that self-identify with kind of empathy and whatnot, it's the violence, the backlash that comes from our contemporaries, our peers, our family, people that think that they know us and really have no idea, that of like, and this is going to happen a lot now because the world is really changing dramatically in ways that other people can't, that most people aren't going to be able to explain because they don't know. And all they're knowing is actually not knowing, but they think it's knowing. So there's going to be a lot of violence around defending their own self-identity and their own shame of not knowing better. Like, I'm neither here nor there about the truth of around like Jesus and the crucifixion one way or another. And I only say that because my own personal beliefs, however solid they are, isn't important in reference to the analogy that I'm building. And that it's like somebody comes along and starts challenging everything that a community believes, but challenging it in such a way that one makes sense, like you're able to kind of like understand it by the manner with which he's saying it, and also is basically being like, you're only being evil to each other and to yourselves And it's because you have the choice, and you are making that choice yourself. Like, basically coming into and pointing out that, like, hey, things don't have to be this bad, and the reason that they're this bad is because, well, you don't believe that they can be better, and you're hurting yourself and other people. I'm going to kind of move away from that analogy and try and put it in a different way too. Something a little bit more with my own experience. I am world class, straight up expert. I'm 34 years old. I'm allowed to be expert in some things. Really, in just about all things, fitness, wellness, when it comes to the body, and really trying to achieve anything in, like, really any direction that way. I know that because I never stop learning, and there's not much out there that I haven't integrated in my own understanding. So just assume that. It's not important that you believe it or not. Just assume it for the context of the analogy. I have family that are close to me who struggle with all this bullshit. And they see the way that I live, and they see how I struggle against basically social enslavement. They don't understand it. I'm weird. I'm strange. And when I start to indicate that the world is not what it seems to them, and I've learned not to tell that people, but I also am not going to lie, right? You know, it's like saying, like, my very good friends yesterday were complaining about their dog. They're like, I don't know, my dog's like been acting really weird, and they put all kinds of illnesses. It's like they're a hypochondriac for their dog, but he's been like walking really slowly and like, I actually know that it's because of like the manner with which the light and gravity and the EMF of the planet. I'm listening to myself. I'm like, that's so funny, because this is as accurate as I'm gonna fucking get on a video, and it's so far from actually what is happening. But whatever. My point is that, like, I kind of said that I was like, you know, like when there's like earthquakes and like deer fucking know, like, a day before, and they start swimming away. The deer starts swimming away. It's the same thing. The dogs are just like, responding to the craziness of the strangeness, and like they'll be like, and then kind of like a blank stare-ish, and then kind of carry on like I never said that. When it comes to my family, it's like, oh, you want to lose your, like, I went to my aunt, and I was like, she who really suffers from low back pain. I was like, I will eliminate your low back pain. Now, I said it this way on purpose because I wanted to create apprehension, right? I didn't want to tell her, because when you tell someone, they think that they know, and that's dangerous. So I wanted to create some question. It's like, how the fuck is Ellie going to just get rid of it all? And it was actually during a time where I was like, where I was just discovering my power of energetic resonance and relationship. Never mind though, like, I've been doing this for like 15, almost 20 years, man. Like, yeah, I know how to heal your body by virtue of like helping you explore it yourself. I've been paid a lot of money to help other people do that, but my family don't believe this, or they don't like go into knowing this. Whatever. I've always been strange and weird and done lots of different things, and have an idea about yoga teacher and whatever. So like, they have no idea how wildly successful I've been. at all. And because, like the manner with which we support people is, I don't know, by giving them birthday gifts and stuff like that. But, my mom, God love her, has been to my yoga class a few times. And I'm really grateful for that because she's like the only person, my brother, my aunts, none of them, they all just talk shit. But it's because, like, kind of going back to what I'm saying, we're coming into a time where basically people are going to start to self-uncover that they've been lying to themselves. And rather than admit that, they are going to prefer they're going to prefer just looking for someone and something to blame. And I'm actually thinking that we're moving into a time where it's actually not going to be the empath that they're blaming anymore, because that's just what they've been doing our whole lives. In fact, now it's going to start to be each other and the government, or the businesses, or the blah blah blah, the blah blah blah, because they're still just looking for someone to tell and to be told. And I guess to kind of sum up what I'd like anybody that watches anything that I write, that I do, right? I think this is still writing. Kind of be aware of coming up now, very presently, is people are going to be coming to you for answers, and there's no answer that is possible for you to give them. When you try to give them answers because it's impossible, and they have no idea how to ask questions or receive answers to questions as questions in and of themselves, one of two things are going to happen. They're either going to get aggressive and try to hurt you physically, which is the least likely thing, because that's just been what has been happening so far. And it's more likely that they're going to glorify and guruize you, because it's a lot easier to just say, think you understand, and really believe that you're like, this person is an elevated soul and I am unworthy and I'm not capable of being this person. So the best that I can do as a lowly human being is to worship and, try to learn everything that this person could know, because all I have to do is listen to what they say. And because they actually do learn by sticking around and listening, whatever like that, they mistake it as being told, when really it's like, no, you're just actually attenuating yourself to my field because we're hanging out and you're watching the actions that look like me, which are just being a good person and having fun and like loving you. It has nothing to do with the words that are coming out of my worth per se. See what I did there? All right. So the end result, no matter what, though, for the empath that has endeavored to elevate themselves within themselves, and to come down to themselves, to be still with themselves too, is going to be frustration. So like, just don't fucking bother, just be yourself, and be wary of anybody asking you questions to be told what to do. And then this is maybe the more precarious one, it's going to come up like jealousy and envy, and when it's just people basically feeling stupid for not listening to you earlier, or and not really that. It's like that's what it'll almost start like, but it'll be really be like they're connecting with their own inner selves, and all the times that they denied themselves and what they believed because it rang like true, but they didn't let themselves believe it. Like I've got a one kind of person that I know, at the risk of not identifying them any further, like, and she is like really into astrology, but not like denies it, you know, like kind of looks at it, like peeks at it like it's a bad thing. It's like, and every time she kind of brings it up with me, it's like, yeah, but like it's stupid. Like there's no reason that it should exist. It's like there's no reason. Like it's just for fun. It's just for entertainment. And every single time she's ever said that, just as easily, I'm like, it's actually true. If you ever want, like I can tell you exactly why and how astrology is a thing. She ever take me up on that offer? Fuck no. Because if she's told that, it's like, fuck, what else don't I know? And I don't know. I know that that's a way of being. I can't relate to it at all because I've never been that way. And I'm not judging one way or another. Like that's just like my point of perspective. But as astrology and like the fact, like people think they know what the sun is when like science is self-confessed. They don't know what the sun is. People think they know what the earth is when, again, science is self-confessed. They don't know what the earth is. They approximate the mantle of the earth. We've never been further down than I think like 24 kilometers or 10 kilometers, like something like really shallow into the earth, or into the past the crust or anything like that, let alone its center. We don't know what the planets are. We don't know what stars are. We take pictures of these things, and we pretend that the images, which is code, that, and like, you know, it's code. It's radio frequency. You know, like, well, we take our cameras and we take these. This is what these things look like. You know, like, this snake can see in infrared, and this is what the world looks like for a snake. You don't fucking know what the world looks like as a snake. You don't know if you can't see blue, and then you take a picture of Jupiter, and it shows up just like that with no blue, and you're like, oh, this is what Jupiter looks like, and then you take a picture, and then somebody else takes a picture that can't see red, and then they can see blue, and it takes a picture of Jupiter, and it looks like this. It's like, what? How's that look different? And then they both agree that red exists and blue exists, but nobody the fuck is looking for I want to say purple, red, metallic hum. You know, like a weird fucking color that shines and also makes a sound, but it's an image in your face. You know? And I'm not saying that this is because people are stupid. I'm saying this because like people have been encouraged to be stupid, and everything is very, very kind of predicated on the predatory strategy of those beings that want to live by subjugating the power and energy of others. But if you are really looking at like the real news, and like it's all happening right now. Like people, I've got all kinds of sky watchers. Like if you look at my playlists, I've got a bunch of public playlists. The ones I think it's called like looking at the sky and seeing space. Like the sky is really fucking cool right now. Like they're seeing UFOs by the sun and like 8 different fucking suns and things like that. I know what's going on. I know. Nobody's asking me, and I don't really want to tell anybody that just asks, anyways. But it's getting to where like people can't. They're like, I would love to deny this, and I can't deny it. So what's going on? And as this happens, I just want to encourage those people that know to be more silent. Not like you're taking my advice, but like let that kind of like my own self-intention resonate with however it resonates with your inclination to be that way as well, because we've lived our whole lives and we're healing now from this like aggrandizement of like doing everything for other all the time, and really like basically martyring and self-sacrificing and making yourself available for anybody, you know, who wants to know and wants to heal and blah, 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 blah. And just to say that that's not how it, like, I'm with you. That's not how it works. You've realized that's how it works. I've realized that too. And so as things start to get really apparent to those that it's like you don't see anything if you just turn your back into a wall, but the wall's getting shorter, the smaller, the corner's getting smaller, the light's getting brighter, the dark is getting more dark. Like eventually you're seeing lighter, you're seeing darker, but you're seeing something that stands out. And to just keep doing your thing. Don't be so loud. And remember that you can't tell anybody anything. That's like my rantish, so I'm just going to read. I think keeping an open mind is also maintaining the ability to challenge and explore beliefs. Yeah. Well, I'm with you, and I know you. I know that you believe in love and loving others, and I think that if everybody just like believed that in some way, it wouldn't even matter if people had a different opinion about what love was or how to love others is or anything. Just having that belief, if everybody just had that belief that we lovingly would come together and share ourselves with each other to just and eventually we'd all come to agree on something. I'm gonna agree with pretty much everything you said, and then I'm gonna add keeping an open mind is about insisting too, not in spite of evidence, but in spite of despair or I want to say contrary pressures, because a lot of true things are also the same things that like the false light is going to make uncomfortable for us or whatnot. I want to say, and this because I hold this to be true, or at least closer to true than not. We all need to be humble on the quest to knowledge, because none of us is all knowing. You can fucking know a lot. Like I would say, and I don't give a shit, I'll admit it, I'm all knowing. Part of all knowing is knowing that of the realm of the not knowing. And the not knowing isn't just I don't know. There's like knowing and not knowing, and the not knowing is a whole realm of its own not knowing. It's really super fascinating. And then in that and out of that, there's still like, I don't know. But things like you can't know God, you can't see God, you can't see spirit, you can't know what happens when you die. You can't. Nobody can do this. Nobody can do that. Like, in my experience, you can do fucking anything. And the worst thing that anybody can ever do is give themselves a self-imposed limit as to what is possible, because it makes it true. And I don't even mean that in like the like self-fulfilling prophecy kind of way. I just really mean like, I don't need to know everything. I don't want to know everything. But I don't find it useful for myself to even think in the manner with which anything is impossible, or I can't this, or I can't that. Moreover, I the way I frame things is just like, I don't know how, or I don't care, / I don't want to, which is, I'm a big fan of those things. Yeah. We cannot manage other people's perceptions. We can only direct our own vibration, intention, and message to the world. I would, you know what? For the sake of being conversational adversarial, obviously I agree with you, but I don't agree with you at all. We cannot manage other people's perceptions. Look at the world. The world is built on structures that manage other people's perceptions. So you can. People do it all the time. In fact, we do it all the time with other people, because most of us, I have like very rarely, I think once, and that's only recently, and maybe it was only because it was for such a short period of time, ever had like a conversation with anybody that that wasn't in some way an attempt at managing the other person's perceptions. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way. I mean that in like it's like, how do I say this so that they get what I mean? Like, how do I say this next sentence so that what I mean is what they hear and what they understand? Like, that's managing people's perceptions. So we can do it. It happens all the time. I think that the consideration of that is also kind and compassionate. And the only way to arrive at that when you're not managing someone's perception is when you recognize the kindness of doing that, and then realizing you're like, oh shit, we're not doing that right now. There's no perception management happening right now. We are in full flow. That is so fucking cool. But it only really occurs by knowing what managing perceptions is. And then I'm going to take this into vibration. If everything is vibration, then if you ever played around with like a drum set, like there's never, or it doesn't even matter, drum set, it's vibration. You can't vibrate something and then have something close to it not pick up those vibrations one way or another. In fact, we do it, that's interaction. And if one vibration couldn't manage, right, another vibration, then they couldn't interact. So however much you manage your own, and if you're managing your own perception, if you're managing your own vibration, and when point of fact and truth, all is one, also, then if you're managing yourself and you're managing your own, then all of this is a managing, and we manage others. And managing others is an aspect of self, an aspect of life. Of course, I'm just using the semantic of those words, but it's useful. And then this is also something that I'm learning, is is a part of my choice. I want to say my superpowers, but like, we all have our superpowers, but you're not going to, I was just going to say, you're not going to choose to be Aquaman when you could be Superman. But I just saw that movie last night. I was hanging out with a buddy, and whatever, right? I want to be over. I'm like, Aquaman's fucking wicked. Because otherwise, it's like, say you can like swim really fast. Lame. Most of life's on land, dude. But actually, I think it's fascinating. Is I don't think I'm empathic. I mean, I am, but if we were to go like delve more deeply, I've never been so inclined. Rather, like I don't know how to say this, but it's like when I hear and feel for others, I'm less inclined to feel like more what they're feeling, and more inclined to kind of feel it, and then I don't know, like fight, push against, like people don't fuck with me. My whole life, people don't fuck with me, and I was like a skinny little kid, and I'm not especially outspoken or anything like that. Shut the fuck up. Good. Not you, obviously. I just recognized that I was going on a bit of a rant, and I want to see if I can kind of pull it back in because I want to read what you were writing too. There's empathy for accepting and inclusion, and there's empathy for recognition and exclusion, for cutting away, for saying no. Like there's yes acceptance and no, get the fuck, like you are not allowed. And I'm maybe it's the masculine. I don't want, no, I'm not even going there because it's too. It's always together. They're always working in intent. Those the masculine feminine energy. So I'm just gonna stick with that. Anyways, tangent. And the filters that people have, or filter, I like filters, veils. We have, I would argue that we do have control over them by virtue of the veils and filters that we have over and within ourselves. And when somebody has a filter or a veil over themselves that we do not have, it's not, well, no, I'm going to stick with control. I'm going to stick with that word. It's the control that we have over their filters one way or another isn't like reaching over and taking it off, or pointing at it and being like, this is a filter, this is a veil. But it's still control when we hold space for ourselves and for them, and they're choosing to be within the same space. It's still controlling their filters by expressing. If I'm expressing my own existence and my own beingness filterless in the manner with which they're filtered, then I am exerting control over my field. If my light or darkness is dispelling that filter. Now, we could argue obviously about that, whether that's control or not. And I would argue that, you know what, like, I'm all for liberating control as being only this like, I don't know, sycophantic or manipulative, narcissistic thing. You know, if me and you are driving a car, I'm controlling where the car goes, right? Like there's no there's no malintent. I'm doing it for the both of us, but we're also doing it together, you know, because like you can totally fuck with me driving the car, you know. So I don't know. There's just trying to liberate anything that doesn't make us feel free. I would argue that maybe you need to embrace humility, because who's we? Some people are too fucking humble, and they need to embrace like self-confidence and strength in standing and in their knowing. I was more like that, and I kind of flip-flop if like a fish. But in a lot of ways, like I needed to learn to not be so humble, because there was like humility and then something else that I was being that wasn't humble, but it was hiding underneath the like being humble. So in learning to be confrontational, essentially, you know, I didn't just need humility. I had humility, and I had to learn some other things, and then learning those other things helped me like temper my humility. Also, I'm not surrounded by a lot of people that aren't humble. I'm surrounded by a bunch like of people that are super humble and essentially victims, right? So I'm not saying it to you as a judgment. I'm saying like we have our environments. Like there's been times in my own work, to draw like a parallel, where I was working with like lots of corporations or like high-end sales and things like that, and that was a community of fuckers that like there's like we all like there's like a lot of humility that needs to be learned there. And I learned, that's where I like kind of learned that same lesson of like, wow, like fucking we like humility is really important, because look at all these successful people without lacking in their humility, and it's missing. And I would say that on a whole of the world or the collective consciousness, that humility is not foremost, because not because people are humble. I'm with you on that. Rather, it's like people don't even know what humility really feels like. They're not even in themselves enough to be, what am I going to be humble for? What am I going to be confident for? It's too far removed. They're only humble when they're told to be humble. They're only like confident when they're told to be confident. It's kind of more kind of what I'm saying. And I would argue that how it lands and ends up being perceived as beyond our control. I would argue that it isn't beyond our control. But I hear what you're saying. So now, and I'm just making fun of your French accent, but I'm not making fun of it. It's beyond our choice. Like, and I think that that's more, now that we're kind of speaking about it more, that's maybe more kind of what we mean. Rather than control, it's like we can manage their perceptions, we can control their perception, we can control we can control that, like the perception, so that it's like, yep, no, that's exactly what I want you to perceive, but we can't make their own choices, no matter what. We can convince them that we're making their choices. We can fool them into thinking that we're making their choices, but we can't make choices for other people. Of course not. realize that others only care with them in true. And I'm gonna go shortly. I'm gonna go like nowish because I've got to walk my dog, but also got to use the bathroom. FYI. And just from my own, speaking from my own experience, because I resonate with the honesty, the truthfulness, and the good, is none of that. All of that is based on your perceptions. And if we don't regard the perceptions of other people as an aspect of our own perception, then we're dictating what is good and true and what we believe the intention to be. And if somebody perceives it differently, we risk assuming or just perceiving that our perception is the true perception or truer perception, and that their perception is less true. And also, goodness, truth, and intention are all things that you can't perceive in and of yourself without others. None of those things can actually exist out of context with the perception of others. There is no good that isn't a perception, a shared perception. There is no truth that isn't a shared perception, and there is no intention that isn't a shared perception. So how others perceive is important, but it can't, but there are levels of perception, so that it's like, and like I've given up a long time ago on this, like I'm going to use the dimensions just for ease, but it's simpler and it's more complex. But like I've given up on 3D perception a long time ago. And then I've come to understand all kinds of different levels of perception. And so much so that, like, in order to relate in earnesty and honesty, my intentions, my good, my truth, I aim to communicate those aspects that I know to be like shared in perception from like a 5D or 6D, especially 6, level of perception where we're like, yep, no, that's I'm not alone in it, and it's being that's true, that's good. It's like it's being that perception is being shared in that dimension. But here in the third dimension, I could be looking like I'm crazy talking, or I can be perceived very contrarily. But that the aspect of self that I'm sharing the perception with, whether my beingness or like an externalized individuation of nature's beauty and God's grace, in other levels of perceptive reality, we're agreeing, even if in the third dimension it's like, I don't know. And I think I'm going to kind of close on that. I'm going to read the rest of what you said, and I'm going to go on that because I got to raise the bathroom. Communication is what aligns people on perceptions. I would say that, and add emotions. Yeah. Notice how consistent you do that. I don't. Why I? What did I didn't say anything to make you think that. I have to take a shit, and it's 1:30 and I haven't walked my dog. So I'm gonna go take a shit. And I'm gonna walk my dog. That's why I gotta go. Like it's like, all right, like, all right. Not even being kind of like that. There's some fictitious perception going on right there. Because what you just said there, I have like it's referencing something that's not in my world. Okay, but thank you for joining me. I do got to go. And thank you for bringing up everything that you brought. I want like that communication and dialogue are what has the potential to clarify or align truth. I couldn't agree more, and I would necessitate the addition of emotions, and then that's it. That like communication in the form of emotional dialogue can pretty much do anything, because the dialogue is is the mind, the mental aspect, and the emotions, which are really the combination of mental and feeling, but it's representative of the heartfelt things. Because, and I'll end with this: the not everything reasonable is right, and the mind and mental give everything is like has a reason, and it's a good reason. And but some things that have no good reason, are completely unreasonable, are still right because it's fucking love, and we just insist on it, even if it makes no sense. Thank you for joining me. I really gotta go. I'm gonna go now. And I'll be aroundish. I don't know. I pop in and out of existence all the time. Boop. Namaste. Peace. Gotta go. Got poop. Love ya.